about leaving religion. The purpose of the videos is to make you think. Turn your brains on and begin to think. Start to use logic, start to use reason, and realize that religion is not real. You're making it all up in your head. Now the purpose of this video is, let's talk about the Apostle Paul, who is highly esteemed in the Christian realm, you know, because you got Jesus and you got Paul. But what most Christians don't realize is you esteem Paul more than you do Jesus, which is why Christians are known as Pauline Christians. They don't even know that. Pauline Christians. Why do I say that? Because if you ask your typical Christian anything about their doctrine, they're not likely to quote something from Jesus, because the doctrine didn't come from Jesus in the Bible in that sense as a story form. It didn't come from Jesus. The doctrine came from Paul. That's why they be like, how do you get saved? Jesus didn't tell them. They're going to go to Romans, what is it, Romans 10:9. If thou shalt confess with thy mouth, you know, and believe in thy heart, you know, thou shalt be saved. You're going to always go to everything Paul said for your doctrine in the Christian religion, not Jesus. Because I haven't found one Christian yet, and I'd be like, Jesus said, that's red letter, if someone smites you on your right cheek, turn to him the other also. You can't finish that statement before they say, somebody hit me, we fighting. Jesus said, if they sue you at the law for your coat, give them also your cloak. That's not going to happen. You know, love your enemies and bless those that curse you. Pray for those that despitefully use you. Hate your mother and father and everybody. If you love me, you got to hate them. Nobody does that stuff. I mean, really, nobody follows Jesus. Yeah, Jesus is like the figurehead. He's like the person everybody want to follow, but they don't follow his words, and everything else comes from Paul. Which is, even though you'll see Jesus, excuse me, you see Jesus and you see Paul, let's talk about how that, you know, let's flip it, because this is not what I meant to talk about, but let's just get it all out, right? Not that either one of them are real. Let's say that first. I'm not saying either one of these, Jesus and Paul ain't real. It's all literature, but you know, they put Jesus above Paul, yet follow Paul and not Jesus. Okay, because if your right eye offends you, pluck it out. You know what I'm saying? If your right hand offends you, cut it off. You're not going to do nothing. None of the stuff Jesus said makes sense. Take no thought for tomorrow, for the morrow will take thought for itself. So don't have no bank account, don't have no stocks, no bonds, don't have no 401k, don't have nothing for the future. Like, the stuff Jesus said was stupid. Point blank, it was stupid. But this is not the point of this video. Even though the letters, the original 7 letters, let's do this. The original 7 letters of Paul came first. The original 7 letters of Paul, which many attribute to Apollonios of Tyana. I'll put it on the screen. And somebody researched that, you know, and let me know what you came up with. Many attribute those letters to him, not some Paul of Tarsus, who really never existed. But the 7 letters came first, and then the forgeries came after. So I'm going to show you the 7 original, and then the 7, and then the forgeries that came after that. All right? And Paul's Jesus, when you read his original letters, there was no virgin birth. There was no Herod trying to kill him, going to Egypt, living in Nazareth. There was no miracles. None of that. At the end, it just talked about pretty much, you know, him giving his life or something. But it was not on earth. It was in the heavenlies. He never spoke about a Jesus on earth literally. He did not. If you read the original letters, the forgeries came to connect the bridge between the Gospels that came after the original 7 letters and the letters. So there was a gap because the letters and the Gospels weren't saying the same things, so they needed something to bridge them. That's where your forgeries come in. Now he's talking about Mary, the mother of Jesus, and some other stuff that wasn't there to try to connect it, to try to make this whole Gospels letters thing legit. That's how it went. But he didn't talk about none of that. But my whole point of that was, got me saying all that to say this. Let's talk about, the topic of this video actually is about the conversion of Paul. And there are even some, sects of religion that disregard the letters of Paul after the Gospels, because many believe Paul was a traitor, because Paul came directly against a lot of stuff that Jesus said. So they kind of saw him as a traitor, like, first you were a traitor, now you said you was with it, but you still said stuff against the one who supposedly started it. So they kind of saw him as a traitor. I just want to go over his conversion real quick. In the book of Acts, which has absolutely nothing to do with the letters, the book of Acts is a backstory, a story for Paul. So you got the letters. Now let's make a story about this dude to solidify the letters. This didn't come up at the time of the letters. Acts, written by somebody called Luke, and whoever wrote the Gospel of Luke, copied 70% of Mark. So now they got the book of Acts. Look, Luke wasn't all original, so why would you think Acts would be? So this is it's really a backstory kind of on Paul, because you start out with the whole Jesus leaving, the original disciples / apostles bring in Paul. The rest is about Paul, bring in Apollos, and if somebody out there could find where it talks about the names of Paul and Apollos being the same type of names, leave it in the comments if you can find that for me. I'll do a whole video on that if you can find it for me, okay? Real quick, Ed Macon. Ed Macon was the one that asked me to do the video about the when you got born again, when you got saved, gave your life to Jesus. That was Ed Macon. He's one of my subscribers on YouTube, and we're friends on Facebook, and we cross all the time. So Ed, thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right, Ed Macon, don't y'all forget that. So let me get back to what I was saying. So the purpose of this video right here, look, let's talk about the conversion of Paul in the book of Acts, which came totally later. They spoke about it 3 times in the book of Acts, but they don't say the same thing every time. Now people talk about the Bible as the Word of God, the infallible Word of God, etc., but yet it does not say the same thing. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to have to use my phone, take my glasses off, I can't see nothing with this joint right here. But then we're going to start in, let's go to Acts. The first instance is in chapter 9. I had to use my notes. I'm going to put everything on the screen for y'all so you can see it, okay? Acts chapter 9. This was the account that happened. And this one was not said by Paul, but by the writer, so-called Luke, whoever Luke may be. All right? And it says in verse 3, he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. It just mentioned him. The light shined around about him. It just said him. Okay? And he fell to the earth. So let's be clear. It says Paul fell to the earth in verse 4 and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, mind you, somebody else telling us, who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And he, Paul, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? And the Lord said unto him, arise, go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. Okay? What about the men with him? Verse 7. And the men which journeyed with him, look, let's say number one, stood speechless. Number two, they heard the voice. Remember that. Number two, they heard the voice, but seeing no man. So Saul got up and he was blind and he was led by his people, okay? That's in chapter 9. Let's go to Acts chapter 22. Same story. This time Paul is telling it. Paul said in Acts 22 verse 6, it came to pass as I made my journey and was come nigh unto Damascus about noon. Suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me. And I fell unto the ground. Look, I fell into the ground. In the first one, Paul fell to the ground. In this one, Paul said, I fell unto the ground, and look, and heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And I answered, who art thou, Lord? And he said unto me, funny he called him Lord. You don't know who it is? Why do you even say Lord? Anyway, and he said unto him, verse 8, and I answered, who art thou, Lord? And he said unto me, look, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom thou persecutest. So when Paul tell it, he says, not just I am Jesus whom you persecuted, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom thou persecuted. Now, and they that were with me saw indeed the light and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake unto me. That is a contradiction. That is a straight up contradiction, because you just said in the other one, the writer said that the men with him heard a voice but saw no man. Now he was saying they heard not the voice of him that spake unto me. And I said, what shall I do, Lord? And the Lord said unto me, arise, go into Damascus, not the city, like he said in the first one. Go into Damascus, and there it shall be told thee of all things which are appointed for thee to do. I could not see, and whatever, the men led him away. That was the end of the conversation. Boom, that was done. Now he's before King Agrippa. In chapter 26, he's standing before King Agrippa. He tells the story yet again. At midday, O king, that's noon, cool, I saw in the way a light from heaven, above the brightness of, look how he's exaggerating it. Because now you're talking to somebody. Now, you ain't said what you said before, now you're exaggerating. Look, above the brightness of the sun, shining round about me, look, and them, which journeyed with me. And we were all fallen to the earth. No, in the first two, you just fell. Now in the third version of the story, in front of some authorities, everybody fell. So I guess add to it, make it sound good, make it dramatic, tell the story like it's supposed to be told. So yeah, y'all all fell to the ground. And I heard a voice speaking unto me and saying, look, in the Hebrew tongue. The tongue didn't matter in the last two. I guess now you're in front of the king or Agrippa, it matters. So now you got to say, in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. He wasn't saying all this before. And I said, who art thou, Lord? And he said, I am Jesus whom thou persecutest. This is the extended version now. Now we're in front of somebody, like preachers do, you get the extended version. Let's add on to the thing. Verse 16, but rise, stand upon thy feet, for I have appeared unto thee for this purpose, to make thee a minister and a witness both of these things which thou hast seen, and those things which I will appear unto thee, delivering thee from the people and from the Gentiles. And I don't even want to read all of it. Now this is the extra long version of what he said. This wasn't said in the first telling of it. It wasn't said in the second telling of it. But in the third telling of it, it was like the remix. We got the remix. And the thing I always remember about what church with this one was, when after he told all of that to Agrippa, and Agrippa said in verse 27, King Agrippa, believest thou the prophets? He said, I know that thou believest. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian. We used to always talk about that. Ooh, you almost got me. You almost got me with the fairy tale, but I'm going to use logic and reason and realize it's bullcrap, Paul. I'm sorry. Sounded good, but I know it ain't real. Now, in the book of Galatians, chapter 1, let's first see the brainwashing here that's put into the book, right? In verse 8, he says, but though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. Verse 9, as we said before, so say I now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that which you have received, let him be accursed. For do I now persuade men or God, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of God. Skip to verse 12. For I neither received it. Oh, let's go back. Verse 11. But I certify you, brethren, that the gospel which was preached of me is not of man. Neither I received it of man, neither was I taught it, but by the revelation of Jesus Christ. Come on now. Paul just told y'all in this book, man ain't give me this. Jesus gave me this. Did you ever walk with Jesus? No. You have more authority than the 12 that walk with him? But he talked to you, he ain't talked to them. He told you. And wasn't you against the whole thing? But now you got some revelation they don't even have? Really? And you teach against what Jesus taught about? If it was real. It's not real. I'm just saying story form. So, look at what Paul is telling everybody. The gospel, which and this is the funny part. Everybody think when he says the gospel that he's talking about, he's not talking about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They weren't around when these letters were written. There was no Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That was later. Again, I told you that they had to connect all that stuff. So what gospel he talking about? The gospel he's talking about is the mythical Jesus that died in the air, in the atmosphere, that never came to earth. Check it out for yourself. I don't want to drag it out. You know, if you got to believe, you don't know. If you believe in, you don't know. If you know, you ain't got to believe. Check it out for yourself. I gave you the information. I'm out of here. Peace.